Welcome to Rivals Team League Season 7 Playoffs, brought to you by Legion and hosted by yours truly, Jeffrey. That's right, we're going to be bringing you games from Rivals Team League here in the playoffs, a really exciting team-based format in the competitive community of Rivals. And you know, the Rivals Team League series is really awesome, and one of the reasons we're doing this is because typically you just don't get to see the games, and there's always lots of great games that come out of this format, so really excited to be bringing these to you. Alright, well let's talk a little bit about that Rivals Team League format, just in case you're not familiar. So, in the regular season, each week teams face off against another team in their group in a round-robin format. And matches consist of 5 1v1 sets played by different players from each of the team's rosters. The team that wins more sets will win the match, and if sets are tied, then the team with more map wins will win. The top 8 teams from there then will proceed to the playoffs, which is where we're at now, and the playoffs will be a single elimination bracket based on group rankings from the regular season and will last about 3 to 4 weeks. So we've got lots of great content to be bringing you over those next 3 to 4 weeks, and we hope you'll stay tuned, and lots to come. Alright, so let's jump into our first game. Okay, so our first match is going to be between the number 1 seeded team, Beer Chuggies, against the number 8 seeded team, Turkish Gambit, featuring Entsorger and Metehan2013. Both these players are quite good. We see Entsorger with a strong 8-2 win-loss on his sets with a 75% map win rate. And Metehan, nothing to snuff at here either, a 5-5 win-loss, which is quite good as well, and a 47% map win rate. Ranking-wise, Entsorger finished at rank 29 and Metehan at about rank 96. So, you know, a little bit of a disparity between these two players, it seems, in terms of skill. But either way, you know, we are here in the playoffs, and these are the best of the best. So, and of course, we all know how Rivals plays out. This can always change. It doesn't really matter too much about players' skill. We always know that things can change depending on how the map and the deck plays out. So, speaking of that, here on Down the Middle, which is the only predetermined map in the set, we're seeing here Entsorger playing a Giga Cannon deck running Chuggy. This is actually a pretty standard meta deck, so not a surprise to see this loadout here. Metehan here playing something a little bit unusual. He's running, well, of course, MLRS makes a ton of sense on a map like Down the Middle. Of course, here, one of the big advantages is that middle missile silo. MLRS is able to reach over top of that missile silo onto the opposite hex, which Giga Cannon cannot do. So that is a big advantage for MLRS on a map like this, and it makes a lot of sense why he's chosen a deck like that. But he has decided to go with Slingshot, which I gotta say is a pretty weak unit. After all of its nerfs, isn't really quite that great. But having said that, you know, this is a map where 2 range units do work very, very well. So it may work out well for him. Alright, well, speaking of that, let's just find out what happened, and let's jump into our first game. Alright, here we go. The first game of the first video series of Rivals Team League. Let's go. Alright, so Entsorger opting to scout first with those militants, and Metehan going harvester first, and you gotta love those emotes. They're a little bit cheesy, of course, but, you know, they are pretty funny, and you gotta love them. Alright, so Metehan responding with his own scout unit, that being the War Dogs there, and a little bit unfortunate here is he got them split up, and Entsorger getting the original advantage here is he's able to effectively take down one of those squads, and now this means he is going to be able to push onto that pad, stalling the missile just a little bit, giving it a little bit extra time. Metehan here going with another set of War Dogs. Of course, that makes a lot of sense, but the problem here is he's got them all split up, so he's not able to get that 2v1 advantage that he needs to get with those War Dogs. Because of that, now that allows those War Dogs to get absolutely decimated on the bottom pad, and now the missile is stalled, and this tech switch from Metehan, although it was very good, may not be timely, as Entsorger now is able to respond with this Chem Buggy, getting onto that top pad, pushing the Shock Troopers off, and that means Metehan's just not able to clear that bottom pad in time, giving Entsorger the first missile. Having said that, though, that doesn't mean this game is over. The first missile doesn't always dictate how the game's going to play out, as we're not seeing any late game, stalwarts like Avatar or any really big tech units, so that doesn't mean the game's over yet. So Metehan now does get his MLRs, but tries to move it into position. However, unfortunate because these boosted lasers push it back, as well as the shock troopers trying to get in the way, and that allows Entsorger to effectively deal with it. And that is a big loss for Metehan, as now he's starting to lose map position, and even though it looks like he might be able to get it set up here, that Can buggy is just sitting pretty, as it's able to move all the way around and deal and protect those lasers quite effectively. The MLRs does unload onto those lasers, very unfortunate because he's not able to clear this Can buggy, which is exactly what he needs it for, and gets that boost, but again, not really aiming on any good targets. And now that, wow, the Giga Cannon's reach from the boosted laser actually takes it out as well. Wow, very good. So now taking down that bottom pad, the shock troopers just could not hold on. I don't think those shock troopers are going to be enough to deal with them as he moves them out, tries to move them out of the way there. Excuse me. As Entsorger, very good play there with that Giga Cannon, moving it in position, takes that second missile, end the game. Alright, so wow, very dominant game there from Entsorger, as we saw Metehan he did get his MLRS out before Entsorger's Giga Cannon, but it just wasn't enough. You know, you saw there that Entsorger had a really great way of just pushing back, and really, you know, because of that first missile, the pivotal moment there was really stalling that missile on the bottom pad, and Metehan splitting up his War Dogs allowed Entsorger to walk in very easily. And that gave Metehan a very difficult game. Like, he just couldn't get that MLRS into the right position, which didn't allow him to get his game plan online. So Entsorger took full advantage of that, as we see that that high skill in those, you know, that wind right really coming into effect there as Entsorger takes that first game. All right, let's take a look at game number 2. All right, so game number 2, we see, of course, like I mentioned in the first one, Metehan was the loser, so he got to pick the map and has decided to go with Hot Zone. A very similar map, but quite a big difference in decks here, as we see that Metehan has changed out that MLRS for a Predator tank and has dropped Pitbull in favor of Orca. And Entsorger here has decided to go into a totally different deck with GDI, not running a 2-range unit, which is kind of interesting, actually, because I'm not sure what he was thinking in terms of what to expect from Metehan here, but, you know, he's gone for a pretty vanilla GDI deck with Predator Tank, Talon, War Dogs, Jump Jets, of course, in place of missiles, which is probably the only oddity there, but, yeah, really interesting. So, of course, Hot Zone, very similar to Down the Middle, as it's a 2-pad map with a missile silo in the middle there, so... again, you know, 2-range units would be very effective here, but we're not going to see that come to fruition. So instead, it's just going to be an interesting grudge match between GDI. Okay, so let's jump into the second game, and let's see, can Metehan come away with a victory and potentially turn the series around? Okay, so Metehan here again on the left with Entsorger on the right.
New objective received.
Okay, so of course Entsorger switching over to a War Factory opener has opened up with his War Dogs, and just like the first game, went Scout Unit first before going Harvester. And did see, of course, now that Metehan with the War Dogs knows that he's got War Factory coming, so he might be expecting Pitbull or something along those lines, so it looks like he might just be waiting until then. Alright, so he's decided to go into Pitbull. Metehan tech switching over into missiles instead of double dog, expecting infantry, of course. Wouldn't make any sense, so that doesn't make a lot of sense for him to tech switch over into missiles. And this is a good play by him, of course, and Entsorger does go double dog to deal with those missiles, but that allows Metehan to already be in his War Factory, which is going to allow him to build this Pitbull. So, again, good advantage here for Metehan. So Entsorger, seeing the Pitbull, deciding not to go Pitbull v Pitbull, decides to go with a Predator tank, which is a bit of an odd choice because there are 2 missiles on the field now, giving Metehan a unit advantage. Another set of dogs comes out here from Metehan to just try and get onto the pad, and it does, but it's not going to last too long, and it won't hold the pad long enough to take that missile. So a bit of an odd choice, but now we see Shock Troopers coming out. Entsorger with his own gets into Defender's advantage, dealing with those missiles, stalling the missile a little bit more, kind of similar to how the first game is played out. And now he's going to be able to boost, so wow, gets a nice boost on those Defender's shocks, taking care of those oncoming shots. He gets the top shocks as well, and that allows him to open up onto the pad. Surprisingly, though, he's decided to ditch that bottom pad in favor of going for the Harvester, which is a bit of a strange play, and especially in a competitive tournament, but he did have those shocks sitting there, and he was able to take that bottom pad pretty effectively, distracting Metehan into dealing with that Pitbull instead of going for the pad. Oh, wow. Nice micro there from Entsorger. He moved that top Pitbull just out of the way and made the Orca split its missiles. So neither Pitbull goes down to that one Orca, and it was able to come back and take care of it. So really, really good economy trade there from Entsorger. So now, getting Metehan pushed back here, he's about to clear this Harvester, and if he loses it, that's going to be actually a big deal. As we saw there, he was pretty short on cash as it was, so now with this Harvester out of the way, look at that, he's just making no money, and Entsorger's got tons of bank. And that means Metehan's going to have a real tough time effectively countering these more expensive units from Entsorger, as Metehan has to rely on his own shock troopers to deal with those shocks. He doesn't have Talon to break that up, and that also means he's got to rely on cheap, efficient units like missiles, which are very easily dealt with by these shocks. So far, not looking so good here for Metehan. He's really trying to spam the pads here. He gets defender's advantage on those top shocks, so they will take down that top pad, and it might be able to open up an opportunity here. But having said that, Entsorger does move on with his own Predator tank, continuing to charge the missile. These War Dogs have to dance back and forth, and of course, this Predator tank will eventually deal with them, but now he builds jump jets to just clear them out quick enough, and that's going to give Entsorger that second missile and the second game. Okay, wow, game 2 underway, so 2 up for Entsorger, and that means game 3 is going to be a set match. If he wins that game, that means he's going to take the match and a victory for the Beer Chuggies, so, you know, not looking so hot here for Metehan. So far, I would say Entsorger, not, like, the decks have been pretty close. Of course, a big difference there in that second game was, like we talked about, was the shock war. Of course, Entsorger being able to push up and gain that map position advantage meant that he was able to get in defender's advantage sooner, and that allowed his shocks to win that matchup easier, so that gave a really hard time for Metehan to try and break that up. On top of that, Entsorger, with his Harvester pressure, took down that Harvester at a pivotal moment, stopping any ability for him to respond with any expensive units of his own, which is really where he needed to be. And yeah, that just made it very difficult for Metehan to win that game, and Entsorger takes a pretty easy victory there. All right, let's take a look at game number 3. All right, so here we go. So this, again, Metehan's backed up into a wall. If he loses here, that's going to be it. And so let's see what he's decided on. So Castaway was chosen by Metehan here, and he's opted to go for a Fortress-style deck, which does make a ton of sense. The only unusual thing here is he's decided to use Slingshot as the effective anti-air tool. And, you know, the thing about Fortress-style decks is they usually run MSV. And MSV worked really well with Slingshot because it actually gives it quite a bit of an advantage. Just Slingshot on its own, even with a Jackson boost, may not be enough, and it really depends on if he's going to get map position advantage, as we've seen how important that's been throughout this series. Entsorger here looks like he's metagamed Metehan a little bit, pun fully intended, as he's chosen Inferno as his choice of deck, and that makes a ton of sense. On Castaway, I think Entsorger knew that Metehan's going to play something like a Fortress-style deck, basing it, I assume, off that first game where he did play MLRS. But yeah, the Inferno is going to be a very good tool here, especially against a deck like Metehan, because he doesn't have something like Talon or Hammerhead to shut that down if he absolutely needs it. If Entsorger gets another map position advantage and is able to push him back, Metehan's going to have a very, very hard time. And the other key here, too, is that the 3 core units of this deck, which is going to be Shocks, Sling, and MLRS, those are all specialty units, right? They all deal with one unit type. They only shoot in one way. So if Entsorger breaks that up in any sort of way, Metehan's going to have a really, really hard time winning this game. But having said that, like we talked about before, this is Rivals, and you never know what's going to happen. So let's get into this next game and find out, can Metehan turn this around and potentially try and take the series? Let's find out. Okay, so potentially the last game of the series. Here we see Entsorger facing off against Metehan. Of course, same as before, Metehan on the left and Entsorger on the right. And a little bit of a change from previous games. Entsorger has opted to go Harvester first instead of Scouting. That's an interesting distinction. But don't know if it'll make too much of a difference. Of course, maybe he's thinking that he's got a more expensive deck and needs the money. But either way, so here we go. Metehan's going to scout. He has seen the War Factories. War Dog's having 3 scout vision. 3 tile vision, sorry, is able to see that. So Metehan's going to wait for his MLRS, and Entsorger interestingly opened up War Factory, even though his opener scout unit was in the infantry, or the barracks, and hadn't seen those War Dogs, so I'm not sure what the thought was there, but either way, he's gone into the Scorpion Tank, and it looks like he's going to walk into that MLRS, and does. Of course, Scorpion Tank only have 2 tile vision, couldn't see that MLRS, and allowed him to take those pot shots off, and means that Scorpion Tank is going to be a bit of a liability. So, Entsorger now moving over into lasers. Great tech switch from Metehan here with shocks to deal with him as he realized that he is going to have to use an anti-vehicle infantry unit to deal with them. And not looking so good here. Metehan might be able to come forward, but no, nice blocking with those lasers. Excellent micro from Entsorger, getting that Scorpion Tank just out of the way, and with all 3 pads secured, takes another missile in a row. Metehan so far has not been able to take any missiles off of Entsorger, having a real difficult time of winning anything here, so this is not looking so good for him, but let's see what happens. Okay, so Entsorger does get Inferno at end. It looks like he's just going to walk into that MLRS. He needs to back it off, but I don't know what's going to happen here. Oh, Metehan doesn't defend it whatsoever. Inferno just comes right in and takes his day. Wow. Really unfortunate loss there for Metehan, as he needs that MLRS in place. Like we talked about before, if Ultra-style deck like this with specialty units needs to be able to get in position, and wow, okay, Entsorger taking care of his own buggy, losing advantage here, and that might cost him the missile here. So boosted MLRS does get in position, and now Metehan starting to get his game plan online. Looks like he's going to be able to cover this, gets the shocks onto the far right. With the dogs blocking that top pad, lasers could not get onto the pads in time, and Metehan takes his first missile of the series. So now this Slingshot needs to be in a good position here to deal with his Inferno. He does get a couple of shots off here, but Entsorger, being a very smart player, backs off that Inferno. And only took a couple of shots, so it's going to live to see another day here. But look at this, those shocks going down to that buggy gave it a huge opening for these lasers to come in, and those boosted lasers just did some real work, demolishing the Slingshot and the MLRS. And now the Slingshot again, it does need to be the key unit here to deal with the Inferno, but the problem is he doesn't have anything to defend it with. So now here we see these lasers and Scorpion Tank about to take care of it. One more shot here, and there it goes. Another Slingshot down the drain. Metehan not looking so hot here. This Inferno just getting tons and tons of value, as we see Metehan just not able to get his game plan online. And now with the missile about to fire, the Scorpion Tank pushing up to get the shock troopers onto the pads, but it doesn't matter. He needs to get on all 3, and it's just going to be enough. Entsorger clearing his own buggy, but of course had both of those bottom 2 pads secured, and takes the 3rd missile and the 3rd game. Wow, so Entsorger, man, that was a really dominant victory from you there. Metehan still, like, he played pretty well, but there was a couple of big key errors in that game, especially when that Inferno just walked up to that MLRS and took it out. You know, I would have liked to have seen him back it off there and at least try to defend it, because that is a 70 cost unit. It's expensive. And losing that is a big deal, especially in today's economy where, you know, it's been ramped down a little bit. So losing that's a huge deal. The Inferno just got pretty much infinite value through that entire game. And, you know, even in the beginning there, where Metehan really smartly set up that MLRS and made sure that using the tile vision to his advantage meant that he was able to actually get all 3 shots into that Scorpion Tank at the beginning, but Entsorger, being such a strong player, was able to micro it out of dodge and just was able to maintain its value. So yeah, taking that first missile was a bit of a dagger to Metehan's side, you know, especially because he hadn't won any at that point. But he did make a comeback there on the second one, even though I will say part of that was Entsorger's misplay with the buggy on his own Inferno. But either way, you know, Metehan just really needed to get his game plan online and had a really, really hard time doing that. So yeah, tough series there for Metehan. But well, you know, commiserations, of course. This is the playoffs. These are going to be tough games, and you got to bring your best if you're going to win. So yeah, and Entsorger does manage to take that set, and that'll be a point for the Beer Chuggies. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that first video series from us. That was really exciting. It's like I said, we've been meaning to cover these games, and you know, all Rivals content is a lot of fun to watch, especially when you get into a competitive format like this. So shout outs to the Legion team, Kenny Emmy, RO99, Odyssey, and Sandstar, and Viper for providing all the great art. So if you did love this, give us a subscribe, like, and comment down below. Tell us what you thought. Tell us if you like this video format and you want to see more. We'll certainly keep trying to bring you more of the playoffs as we do this. And also, if you like what we do, consider donating. That's how we continue to do this. That's what keeps us going, as it feels prize pools. It gives us a way to continue to put out these awesome high quality videos and content. So thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.